Welcome to Inside Style. I am your host, George Worrell, and thank you for tuning in today. One of the great pleasures of doing this show is I get to chat with people from all walks of life. I'm interested in their journey and how they got there. Today, we have a chance to chat with CEO of Verb Well Interiors, interior design studio, Crystal Taylor, and Dele Butler, who is a global powerhouse attorney guiding high-performing professional women on excelling in the corporate world. Baby, we got it in the house today. Ladies, thank you so much for coming today. Thank you so much. How are you?
Doing well.
Thank you
for having me.
So let's just get started. Tell me, each of you, about starting your careers and your journeys. How are you from this area, Crystal?
I am.
Okay.
I am from Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Not born here, born in Ohio.
Okay.
My parents are from D.C., and I think I came back here when I was like 2 years old.
Okay.
So I went to D.C. public schools. I've been in the city or surrounding areas ever since.
Okay.
So yes, I'm from here, and do you want to know sort of like where I started or how I got started?
Yeah,
we're going to moving on to that.
Yeah. So Dele, tell me what's your, because I want to know where it started. Where did yours, this area or?
Yeah, so I grew up in Evanston, Illinois, or half of my growing up was in Evanston near Chicago.
Okay.
My parents were professors, Northwestern and Roosevelt colleges. And then my dad came to D.C. area when I was around sixth grade.
Okay.
He was came in as the chairman of the math department at Howard University.
Okay.
And so we came here, and I've been in the D.C. area ever since. In Silver Spring, went to public school in Silver Spring at Springbrook High School, and I still hang with the same friends that I was hanging with then.
It's like, I love it. The sisters doing it for themselves. So and we were talking before the show that there's a great interest in the hats that you wear. As women, as black women, as entrepreneurs, as, you're a corporate lawyer, you own your own company. Mm-hmm. Tell me how that journey is. How was that journey? Tell me a little bit about your career journey. Like, how did it start? What was the path? What attracted you? I'll start with you.
So I will probably start with where I was before starting my own company, and I was working in corporate. Mm-hmm. And as you know, we both kind of worked together on some projects. Mm-hmm. I worked for a media company. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I would say is that being there all those years, I always knew that there was something different, something more. And I wanted to really hone in on my creative talents and things that I knew that felt good. Mm-hmm. So I've had different journeys as it relates to entrepreneurship. Some things worked, some things didn't. And I didn't really look at them as failures. I saw them as growth because I always knew that the itch was there. I just didn't know exactly what it was and really kind of defining what my purpose was. Mm-hmm. And as time went on, I realized that I really was into, creating beautiful spaces. Mm-hmm. And something that I probably would say I got from my mother. Mm-hmm. And she was an interior decorator. And I remember being around her and seeing all these things that she was doing. And I was into it, but I just didn't know how much I loved it. And as time went on, I realized being in corporate, it's funny, used to go to a little closet that they had when I felt stressed out. And I said, there needs to be a space here where people can go, and it's like a wellness space, and it has beautiful, comfortable, furniture and all those things. And they need to create this space. So I said, well, maybe I should start creating these spaces. And so that's sort of kind of how I got into the whole interior design part of things. And it just elevated from there. So this is where I am.
Oh, that's hot. How about you, Dele? Because, it's like so that corporate and the lawyer hat. What was that journey? Did you always think about that?
No. So it's funny how I got to where I am now. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be an actor as a young girl in elementary school and on up. And then after college, I said, you know what? I started a job. I was a computer scientist. And then I said, this is not really for me. I don't want to be in front of the screen. I'm more of an extrovert. I want to be out there. I love acting. I quit my job, and I full-time was acting for 2.5, 3 years. And after a couple years, I got my SAG card, and I went to Los Angeles. I took my 4-year-old son, turned 5 around that time, to LA, and I lived there for a year. And then I realized, I need to have a very clear line between my effort, my work, and my expertise and how much money I make. And there's not that line in the acting world. You can be excellent. You could push for 10 years and not get there, right? And so after a year, I said, okay, I'm going home. And my husband now, Craig, who was my boyfriend then, he was like, maybe you should go to law school. And you love the entertainment space. You really care about Black people getting more exposure in film. Maybe you can do it from the corporate side. He's a lawyer. And I said, okay. And then within a month of going back to D.C., I took the LSAT and ended up getting into George Washington University. I knew I wanted to do corporate because I spoke to other entertainment lawyers that were very successful. And they advised me, well, you need to learn contracts. If you want to be an entertainment lawyer, that's what it is. It's contracts, it's negotiations. And so I went to the law firm knowing I wanted to do corporate. Within a year of being there, I really enjoyed working with the private equity and venture capital fund formation team that was within the corporate group, so it's a specialty. And then I kind of stayed there. And the desire to kind of be in the entertainment world kind of fizzled out, and I developed expertise and relationships and a love for working with founders of venture capital funds and private equity funds. And so that's what I've been doing now for about 13 years.
Wow. How have relationships helped you on your journey in your career path? Like people that you met at parties. How did that play for you? Because I know where you were. Did that play a part in?
I think it played a great part because I learned a lot from a lot of people that I worked with in corporate, and I was able to meet some really great people and develop really good friendships with those folks. Folks that were connected, folks that could share some friends with me or someone else. So it was a lot of connections. And those relationships still remain today. And then also those relationships within your inner circle of people that, that I'm around, or my husband and my family. I'm a really big on family. My husband and I have been married this year 17 years. And he's always been like that person. And he's always trying to, continue to, support me, but then at the same time encourages me to go out and meet different people, or he introduces me to folks that, hey, I know this person, they're doing this might be able to help you here. So those relationships definitely are important to me.
It is so important because when we talked about you going on, your husband posted before you even checked. And Craig does the same thing. I knew more about you. Say, oh, you got to meet my wife. But that is important because I look at it, that was my surroundings. My parents have been married it'll be 66 years this June. Is that important for that home, like your husband, your partner? Do you believe that they're your biggest champion?
Yes, absolutely. So the reason I got my first legal job was partially because of Craig. And then just he makes me feel like I'm bigger than I believe I am. So he kind of sets my trajectory of see yourself, see the future self instead of focusing on who you think you are right now. You're much bigger. So he opens up my eyes to the possibilities of who I can become and encourages me and never, ever, ever, ever tries to hold me back or stifle me. So that's a huge piece of my success.
So that's that meet. So we're saying there are some untruths about Black men. That you have experienced within your own marriages and what you see that your husband's Black strong men are that uplift those kinds of things. And Crystal, you see it as well.
Yeah, it's a partnership. James and I are friends. So we're friends first, and friends support each other. It's not just, he's doing great in his career, So when he sees that I'm trying something new or I'm trying to develop this business, he wants me to win. And if I lose, that means he loses. So that's how we kind of do this thing together. We're partners.
How have you seen any challenges, one being a woman and two being a Black woman? I want to talk about that. Have you not? Has it just been smooth sailing, or is it anything that you've seen? Because we have young people, older people, we see the times that we're in, and I try to talk about the realness of what's going on. I've seen it you know, especially being a black male or whatever. What have you seen, or how's your journey been with that?
Yeah, I think there are definitely challenges. I think the main challenge is that we're all human and we have our biases. And it's our way of thinking quick. Our brains are wired to make a quick decision, see it, decide which way to go, right? And because, you know, our people for over 400 years have been in this country, have been abused, misused, kidnapped, et cetera, we have so many issues that parts of our community do deal with. And so a lot of, I think, the white men and white women that have had to hire me or promote me, they have to fight the knee-jerk reaction in their mind that maybe she doesn't have leadership material, maybe she can't lead this team of white men, or you know, and so it puts more pressure on me to have to take time that I could be using doing business development, take time that I could be using to research more, read articles, and instead now I got to use that time to convince you to not trust your knee-gut, you know, reaction that is based on bias.
And is that intuitive, or or it's just like smack in your face? That you know that you have to do that.
Oh, it's so, I know it so much, it's become intuitive.
Okay.
Wow. I remember I read a book by Ta-Nehisi Coates that talked about the cost of having to convince, and that you end up having to work 50% more or twice as hard as other peers that are not black women in order to get 80% of the recognition. And that time, that 200% or that 150% that you're giving is time that you're not putting into yourself. So you're losing when you're doing that. But it becomes hard. So my fight in that is to be my authentic self. So
that's the part. Yeah, it is. And you really have to go there and really go within yourself and say, hey, who am I? Because there's the insecurities. You know, they're there, especially in corporate, and when you're around white women and white men, and you have to prove yourself. And so you have to go inside of yourself and say, who am I? I'm better than this. I can do this. Which is one of the reasons why I chose to, you know, go out on my own and say, I need to run my own thing because I know how I think it should go. I know how I can run. I know how I can make this great. I don't have to convince them that I'm good. I know that I'm good.
I'm about to pass the plane around, and we're having a little chat. I love it. But this is what you know, how do you, and we talked about this just briefly a little earlier, how do you manage home, kids, husbands, friends, and then you? How do you do that on a daily basis?
I'm ruthless about not wasting any time. It's like every 30 seconds matters to me. So that's the biggest thing. I'm not usually on social media, and if I'm doing it for a business reason. So you're not, and then if I catch myself when I'm posting something for a business purpose, I'm like, wait, now I'm looking at everyone else's posts. I don't have time for this. So I don't watch much TV.
I love it.
I don't even listen to that much music, which I love. I get my enjoyment from when I do my brunches with my girlfriends, and we go out to have drinks. We travel for a week. I just got back from Cote d'Ivoire. But other than that, I try to like really ring fence my time so that there's none I don't feel is wasted, and I rest a lot.
Really? So is it like departmental? Like, okay, this is kid stuff. This is Craig's. You know,
it's very compartmentalized, which maybe isn't wonderful, but I
but
party hard.
Okay.
And then I dig into the family hard. And I do both all the time. Boom, 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 boom.
Okay, and then there's
hard.
that time for you to like.
Yes, and I have my prayer time in the mornings. I used to try to get up at 5 a.m. Lately, it's been difficult. I think because the time changing. But I try to give myself an hour where I can read the Word, I can meditate, I can pray, and just have me time before the kids are in my face.
How about you,
For
Chris?
me, probably a little bit easier now that I have a 28-year-old and he's out on his own.
Okay.
So I was a single mom. So I was used to always having a lot going on. And investing into myself was not something that I was doing. It was, I needed to make sure this kid was good. I needed to make sure he got the education that I thought that he deserved to have. So I spent a lot of my early days focusing in on him. I would say now that he's gone to college, graduated, working, and out on his own, you've done something great. As far as my husband and I are concerned, we're like this. So we do everything together. He's like my road dog. So between the family and then me, I think I start with me now. Before it was family first. So now I focus more on myself. You know, really having my Sundays are my days. So that's the day that I'm reading my magazines. That's my wellness days. Those are the days I'm doing my facials and investing in myself. I try to read and listen to podcasts a lot. That's how I get a lot of my information. That's my me time. I'll put my earplugs in. Even if we're sitting there together, I'm still like zoned out into my own space. And I try to just make sure that I'm connected to God at all times. That is what helps keeps me going, you know.
And that faith part.
That spiritual part is my
faith,
thing.
spiritual part. Can we talk about that for a minute? Because a lot of times people shy away from it, but I know for me, I can do nothing. Nothing. Because for me, I think, and I want to hear from you ladies, that when you're not there, mama's not there, who am I, that trust and that faith in? So is that similar for you all?
Absolutely. I couldn't do anything without it. And my life, when I go back and I look at those years, especially being a single mom, I remember a lot of, challenges and things and difficulties. And I remember that I always had that to go to. And that was just, you grew up in the church.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say that I'm religious.
Yeah,
I'm not
there's
that
a difference.
person.
Yeah.
I'm
It's a
just
little bit of a difference.
spiritual. I like the relationship that I have with God because it's helping me know a lot more now about me, and it's not all the rules of religion. So I couldn't do it without him. I don't think I'm here without him, and I will continue on my path with him. So he's my partner too.
Okay.
So he's my partner first.
Yeah.
So in
Yes.
this business, he's my business partner. So.
Yeah. No, I feel like it's like, as we were talking about the career piece, the thing that helped me when I had the hardest time in my career, when I felt like, oh, maybe I'm not good enough to be here, maybe I'm not smart enough because of something someone else said that had their own biases. At that point, I kind of went down deep into prayer, and what I learned was I don't have to be good enough because him being there with me gives me the stamina, the belief, the faith in my capability to actually do more. So when I went through that and I went down low, I actually soared higher professionally in terms of my work, what I was doing with my clients than I ever had because I started believing more in myself because I wasn't believing in my capabilities as much, but in God's, and I just started pushing harder. So I believe when you believe something, you start acting in accordance with what you believe, right? That mindset, the paradigm shift. And so that being in the paradigm of knowing that God, Christ is with me, nobody can come against me. What's mine is mine. No one can take it away. I mean, like,
You're
that
good.
paradigm, you are golden. So
You really are.
Yeah.
And it's the shift.
Yeah.
It's really changing how you think about yourself. You can't be any good to anybody else if you're not good to yourself first. And so you got to feel that within. And I think that comes from the inner being, the spirit that's within us.
I call it turning off the committee in your head.
Yes.
Those things that say, no, you're not good enough. They don't think that. In many of the cases that I've thought somebody thought something, it was either not that or totally something totally different and in my favor. But the committee was telling me that, oh, no, that's wrong. No, you shouldn't do that. You weren't that good. No, you shouldn't go back. They're not going to call you back. All of that in my head.
Yeah.
And they don't know anything about it. And I get the phone call, oh, yeah, we want you to come back. And I'm like, and not just one time, but a few times like that.
And you're thinking, how many things do I believe that are not true? You know?
Yes.
How many things do I believe that aren't true? And if you really start to do that work, you can be here. You're at the top of the world at that point because you can do anything. And like you said, no one can take it from you. It's yours. Once you know that, there's no competition. There's no getting there first. It's mine.
What's meant for you is meant for you.
Right.
And I don't care. We can all be lawyers. We can all be interior designers, but there's nobody that's going to practice or design the way that you do.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Nobody.
Nobody.
No, that's right.
And that's the good news, don't you think? What now? Did
And
you?
knowing that it's enough for all of us. You
Yeah,
know,
my
there's
friend
so
Shantice told me.
much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
There's
you.
so much for all of us.
that we don't need to have that feeling like I need to get there first or that better. How has mentorship played? Do you have like one mentor or a mentor? How did mentorship play in your careers?
I'm gonna send it to her first because I didn't think about this.
Okay.
Yeah, mentorship has been huge for my legal career. So I've definitely tried to develop deep relationships with the senior Black attorneys that worked as partners at the firm I was at previously, Hogan Lovells. And I still talk to them regularly. Ari Fitzgerald, Margaret DeLisser. They are now, some of them are still working, some have semi-retired but are still involved at the firm. And just, they encourage me. Sometimes you think that what you're experiencing is your experience and that, because you got something wrong, something going on, but everything with them is okay. And then just hearing them tell me, oh, I've been through that. This is how you can navigate that situation. Call this person up, and they'll help you get this position, or they'll help you do this or that. So I definitely make sure that I keep in touch with these people who are busy and they have their own lives, but I try to feed into them because they've always given me so much. And then I've had mentors within my current job and elsewhere who are Jewish men, white men, et cetera, and have been good to me. And I similarly keep in touch with them, make sure I let them know what's going on, ask them for lots of advice. I have my board of directors, personal board of directors that I reach out to consistently for advice. And they've just really helped me avoid landmines.
They want to see you succeed.
They want to see me succeed, and they will introduce me to people who will then introduce me to 6 more people, and it just, people who I would never be able to get a call with. But because they introduced me,
they're going to make it happen.
Stars and the moons, they'll make it happen. And that's a huge part, I think, of what mentors' role is to
keep you on the guiding path and kind of, hopefully you don't make the mistakes or the roads that they went that weren't so, or they can tell you, this is the road I went, it may work for you, but
Yeah, I think for me, it was finding the right person that I felt comfortable enough getting advice from, getting the information from, learning. And as time went on, I started to see certain people that were in my life that I didn't even know were mentoring me, whether it was professionally or on a personal note. I would say that I would add you to that list, George. You and I have been knowing each other for at least 20 years now. And so I've learned a lot from you. And I have new people in business and friends that are doing very well or very successful. So I'm now seeking that information, going out to them, meeting. And sometimes, like you said, they don't have a lot of time. But just anything that I can get from them because they're doing something and it's working, then I try to figure out how I can make that work for myself as well. So to me, it's important. I'm still need to get better at, I don't say networking. I like connections. I don't like doing networking. I don't want to just meet people just to meet people. I want to connect to people that are beneficial.
And then opening those doors, because you both have opened doors for me, like people that you've introduced. We found out we knew the same people. You've opened doors for, projects for me and things like that. And things that I couldn't even remember. I was like, oh, really? We met there? And I was like, okay. Washington said, oh, yes, I remember. I'm not like that. I'm like, oh, really? We did? Oh, where? Tell me. But this has been wonderful. I want to have you back to continue this conversation, but I do have one question that I'd like to ask you both. If you had a dream person, who would you have dinner with, past or present?
Just one person.
Yeah. Who would you have dinner with? Would it be a family member? Would it be somebody that you want to meet? I know for me, I'll start with me. I would have dinner with my grandmothers.
I was going to say the same thing. I was going to say the same thing. My grandmothers both are no longer with us, but they were very influential in my life. My grandmother was into making things look beautiful. Both of them were. And so I see where I get it from. Okay. And I have pieces of theirs throughout my house, an old lamp. It's vintage. I actually have, one of my grandmothers has her mixer. It's still in the same box. It looks like it's probably from the 60s. I still have it. So some of the things that they instilled in me very, very early in age, I think go along. But there's some questions and some conversations that I would love to have with them today. I still feel them here in spirit. So having dinner, I can still have dinner with them now.
Yeah.
That's nice.
How about you?
So, I have two.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, one is Living Now. It's Apostle Joshua Selman. He is a preacher and apostle in Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
And I watch his sermons probably twice a day. Like, I watch him so much. I'm thinking about taking a trip to Nigeria to go and find where he's going to be speaking so I can hear him. And then Miles, who's now passed, Miles Monroe. He was a pastor out of Bahamas who got many PhDs. He wrote so many books about purpose and prayer, and I've listened to his sermons that are all over YouTube now and read his books. And they've really shifted my spiritual kind of perspective and understanding about God and about the kingdom of God. And so those are two people that I would want to.
Wonderful. Beautiful. So we're finishing up in our last 30 seconds. How can we get in contact with you for social media?
You can go to Verve Well Living. And if you want to find us on the internet, you can go to vwlinteriors.com.
Dele, if we'd like to contact you,
So I'm on LinkedIn,
Okay.
Dele Butler,
Okay.
and I just opened up my Instagram to the public because I'm interested in focusing on getting Black women to travel to Africa. And my Instagram handle is Mrs.Deb.Esq.
Love it, love it, love it. Thank you for this conversation. I always learn something. I feel enriched. I'm sure our listeners will. Thank you so much for coming on, and thanking for our listeners for listening. And again, thank you for tuning into Inside Style. My name is George Worrell, and remember, real style starts with being comfortable in your own skin. We'll see you next time.